This is Echoes of Us. I'm Elena Iacono. In every episode, we explore the stories, values, and wisdom that ripple through generations. Today, Jeff Schwartz, President and CEO of GoLime, shares a powerful insight from his grandfather, a lesson that's shaped the man he is today. Okay, I've been waiting to have you on this show because you're someone who, at the very early onset of my career, was always there offering guidance. You taught me the best of what it means to brand, to market, and I was like, okay, I have to have Mr. Jeff Schwartz on the show because I know that your family is so important to you, and I know that values are very important to you. So thanks for coming on to Echoes of Us.
Thank you, but I don't know what to say for that introduction other than thank you very much.
We'll say thanks. That's it.
Thanks.
Take it.
I don't know how to take something like that because it's beyond meaningful, but thank you.
From the heart. Listen, we're going to talk a little bit about people that have influenced you to really demonstrate and give a taste of what this means and does to people. And the first question I have is, can you tell me, Jeff, about someone whose presence or wisdom deeply has shaped who you are?
Yes. So for me, it was an easy one, and I don't know if this is unique for your audience or for others. Look, I want to say I'm lucky that I still have both my parents. And I will say this, when I met my wife, Jen, there was a constant in her life since she was a baby, and that was her grandfather. And what I'll just say is a very quick story. When we got married, we had all of our grandfathers alive. And within maybe a year after we got married, all of our grandfathers, for the most part, we were lucky to still have one, but 3 out of 4 passed away. But I think the fun part about remembering people's memories is to keep their spirit alive. And I'll tell you the quick story about Jen's grandfather. So Jen's grandfather has these big blue eyes, and I looked up to him, but I know he always looked up to me. And I think part of that was dating his granddaughter. Part of that was the special bond he had with his granddaughter. But also, I think it was an ability for me to connect with someone that had wisdom far beyond anything that I could ever appreciate. So to answer your question, if I had to pick one person, and it goes back almost 20 plus years, would be my wife's grandfather. We used to call him Papa. So Papa Joe would be the person to share today.
And dear Papa Joe, what's one sliver of wisdom or value or lesson that he may have taught you? Something that you can share and something that maybe, is constantly in the back of your mind as you're continuing on with your days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a very easy one, but it took me 20 plus years to even appreciate the wisdom. So sometimes I feel when someone tells you something, you don't appreciate what it is until something happens in life that brings it to the forefront. So Papa used to call me Tuffy. And I know the reason he called me Tuffy. He called me Tuffy because I probably wasn't that tough. Or I was maybe a bit wimpy about certain things. And I remember he used to, sometimes, especially as he got older, he would say, well, you and my beautiful Jennifer, you need to eat both white meat and dark meat. And I would say, well, we don't like dark meat, Papa. We just like white meat. He goes, you'll enjoy white meat and dark meat. He said, listen, Tuffy, you need to, eat all the right things, and it's good for you to have the whole foods. But really, I think what he was trying to say is what Tuffy meant is to take care of yourself. And I'll share a bit more as we talk today, but I will tell you, this notion of what Papa said and just the word Tuffy, I always laugh because the root cause of Tuffy, I think, is, he grew up in an era in Europe and he survived, sort of the Holocaust, and his wife survived Auschwitz, and Jen's grandmother's still alive today. So if you think about she is 97 years old. She lived in hell, and she's still here and has a smile on her face, and thank God, healthy. And what I would say is this: the reason I can reflect on Papa Joe, and we called him just Papa, was I know when he said Tuffy, it was out of love. But I'll share a little bit more on maybe it'll be one of the next questions, but a little bit more of how that message has resonated with me over and over again, and how I've been able to play that back to really help fuel a bit of a health revolution for myself, but more importantly for my own family.
And how does that show up? That is the next question. How does that show up and how do you keep that close to yourself?
Yeah, so number one, I think it shows up by the spirit and memories of loved ones. I remember maybe 5 years ago or 8 years ago, Jen and I got a message from one of our cousins with some videos, because he did some videos with not with Steven Spielberg himself, but the Spielberg group, and sort of remembering people that are gone that lived through the Holocaust. Because I think one of the most important things is, if you remember, you never forget. And so I think some of those lessons came front and center. But I will tell you, like, when you go through not trials and tribulations, but when you go through life, everything is non-linear. So it's like ups and downs and ups and downs and everything. And the one constant that you have is like sort of those memories in the back of your mind or in the back of your head, where you can say to yourself, what can I do differently? And I'm telling you, thousands of times over the last 20 years is the word toughie. And toughie comes up, and it's sort of like, you can laugh and giggle, like toughie's a silly word. But for me, toughie has been a way to be stronger. Toughie has been a way to find your sweet spot. Toughie's been a way to make sure that your passion is what it needs to be. Toughie has been a way to say, just, if you want to lead with kindness, don't change who you are. And so toughie's come in more and more times. But what I would say is the number one route for me on toughie would be just thinking back to the beginning, when, he would look at us with eyes. Well, look at my wife. I'm sure he only looked at me because he was looking past Jen to me. But the point being is, you saw something and a sparkle in his eye that made you aspire to be better, or it made you push yourself to be a better person. And I can say it's come up so much in the last few years, especially post-COVID, in making sure, I show up as my best self, that I'm tough inside out, but that I'm, fueling my body, my mind, and every part of what I bring with the toughest mindset, and something that I know that I can stand up to each and every day.
How does this mindset make you a better father?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give you the perspective. I'll define mindset, and then I'll say how it becomes a better father. So number one, I would say with my oldest being 19 and my youngest being 12, I've always tried to be a great father, and I hope that my kids look back and say, Dad's been fantastic. But I think, you're in high pressure situations. I've had periods of my career where I was traveling 100 nights a year. I've had periods of my career where I was pushing for more. I've had periods of my career where I prioritized career over family. And I think what I can say, and from a mindset perspective, it's come down to four things. And it took me, I'm 47, I just turned 47, but it took me 47 years, I guess. Not, I didn't know at 45 years ago when I was 2, but my point being is, over the last 35 years, I have always had a quest to figure things out, and I figured it out with four things for mindset. Number one is, you need to be focused on your mental clarity, and one of the best ways you get mental clarity is sleep. And so my mindset's at the best when I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Number two is on your physical strength. I spent my whole life fearful of going to a gym and sort of saying I do what I do and I'm in good enough shape. Now I have like a regimented fitness routine, and that keeps me feeling strong and my mind sharp. Number three, which I think is super, super important, is learning how to cope. And so you think back to the reason I brought up Papa, is imagine what it was like to cope when you were living in, a situation of, you're living in labor camps or concentration camps. Or imagine getting on a boat to Canada with not $1 in your pocket, and him telling me the story that his first job was in a flour mill, and the way he got the job, because he didn't speak English properly, was watching and hiding to watch how someone worked the machine, and then going in and learning from watching. And so you get inspired by that level of resilience. But I'll tell you, last but not least, and this is the number one thing I've learned very recently, is the food that you put into your body is what fuels your mindset. And so the more that you can nourish yourself with things that are good. And so right now I don't eat packaged food. I don't eat processed food. I drink a ton of water. Like I have these giant jugs. I spend a lot of time thinking what I put in my body matters. And I'm telling you, that's the biggest revelation. So it goes back to the beginning when I said at the beginning when, Papa said, Tuffy, have white and dark meat. The point being is like a lot of our ancestors and a lot of people had a lot less than all of us have in the fortunes of being able to go to the convenience store and pick up a bag of chips or be able to go and snack all day long. And it's interesting, like I think I read recently 60% of the food that we eat is like filled with chemicals, preservative, sugar. And so this isn't the point, I'm sure, of the podcast, but I think what I'm saying is when you look back at our ancestors or you look back at someone that hasn't been here for 25 years, and when he says back in the day, my favorite thing is Whole Foods, my favorite thing is my family, my favorite thing is the love of being surrounded by my family. It puts into perspective all of the pieces and things, when you fast forward, 25, 30 years later, to say we have all the technology in the world, all the conveniences of picking up something packaged at the airport to consume on the go. But ultimately, you learn a lot more from the past.
But you're raising a good point because there were moments of storytelling. There were, slivers of insights that he was conveying and passing along to you. And look how much, I don't want to say better off, but look how well you're doing. And do you feel we're getting better at storytelling in our generation or worse? And how can we foster better connection? Because that's what this legacy storytelling really is all about, is fostering moments so that little seeds can be planted.
Yeah, I here's what I will tell you. This will be the only controversial thing I'll say is that I think I took for granted a lot of the face-to-face time that I had when I started my career or when I was with other people. Like I grew up without screens. I grew up outside. I grew up without social media. And the reason I say controversial, because I'm sure some people think social media is the greatest thing ever. I sort of fast forward and go back to like the moments that I enjoy the most are the times when I can have a conversation with someone. So even though we're using technology to bring us together, I feel like we're telling a story together, and I can guarantee you it's organic because I got nothing other than what you see here, no notes, no anything. And so I remember those stories because the art of the story never gets old. When I think about, my kids, like just scrolling through things, and when I think about if I started my career, like my son who started high school in grade 9, remote in a lockdown, what would happen to me emotionally, mentally? And I think it's hard. Like, I think the art of the story isn't lost, but I think we're all relearning the importance of being together about face-to-face time. And I will tell you, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and my best friend's grandfather is 102 and was on this podcast, no word of a lie, and it's about longevity. And his comment was simply this, is like, it was always about the thing that he loved most was being with his family. And so those interpersonal relations and those, feelings of being with people, I think happen more face to face. And so the reason I say controversial, I went through an up and down through COVID of like being fully remote and being like, I never want to leave the house again, to being back in office, and that changed, but that was normal before. I think there's a happy medium now, but what I will say is this, the best art of the story, in my opinion, come from face-to-face encounters, which is why I can bring up, Papa. I never had a storytelling with Papa where I did it on FaceTime or I did it over the internet. It was always face-to-face sitting at the table with them. And, I think a lot of us forget the importance of that face-to-face interaction. And I think about that a lot, actually, in my own life and, what my kids' adventure will be and how much of a face-to-face world it is.
And thinking about your own lived experience, then, what do you want to make sure that your loved ones, your team, your community, whoever knows because of that lived experience?
Number one, and I think a lot of people know that about me. Look, I'm probably naive to think that, I would say, and I'm halfway through my journey. I'm never going to change, and I think number one is be kind. Kindness matters a lot. Number two, I use the word care a lot, care about things, but I don't mean just be a caring person, care about the things that are important to you. And I think, caring matters, authenticity, genuine. My son had his bar mitzvah during COVID, and he stood up and read the Maya Angelou quote. People will forget what you said, what people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I would like that to be a bit of my legacy. I hope I made people feel special. I hope I made people feel valued, because I think that is ultimately what I enjoy most. I enjoy not making people feel special, but treating people with the respect, dignity, but most importantly, the care that they deserve. And to me, that's what I hope my legacy is.
Well, it absolutely will be that. And if you had a mic to the future, to your kids, your grandkids, what's one piece of guidance? I know it's hard to nail it down to one, but what's one piece of guidance that you would like to echo on?
I think it probably roots back to passion and following your dreams. Like, dream big and never give up. What I don't know, and I will say from a Mike perspective, is I grew up and, my entire family from parents and grandparents were always Toronto based. I think if I were to, tell my kids is, follow their hearts and look beyond what you see. Because I think, the biggest aha for me, and I'll leave you on this, I didn't start traveling till very late in life, and the world of travel opened my eyes to everything. And I would say to my own kids is the world is different now than it was when I was a kid. And so I think it goes to like the words, like, if I have a mic to the future, follow your passions, be who you are and who you're proud to be. And, probably also don't forget your heritage of how you got here. But, the future is going to be what you make of it, bringing the past along with you. And I think that's, if I had to sort of have a mic to the future, I hope that's some of the wisdom that I could embark.
I love that. Bring the past with you. It's part of who we are, and it's ingrained in every sliver of our DNA. Last question, and I love asking each of my guests this question. In one word or phrase, what does legacy mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it's impact. For me, it's impact. Like, I think you said to me at the beginning, like, who left the biggest legacy, or what, or I can't even remember the exact word. The word that came to my mind is impact. The reason being is because ultimately at the end of the day, and I thought of this the other day, whether it's mentorship, whether it's family, I think there's impact, and that's the word. Yeah, I don't even think it needs further explanation.
Impact. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Jeff Schwartz, thank you so much for being here with me.
That was so fun. Thank you, Elena, and it's fantastic to see you.
Thanks for listening to Echoes of Us, a Legacy Next production. Because legacy isn't about what we leave, it's about what lives on in others. To discover how you can capture and share the wisdom that matters in your life, visit legacynext.com. I'm Elena Iacono. Until next time, keep listening for the echoes.